I sat in the kitchen when the phone rang. It was one of those early evening calls, the kind you don't expect because you figure everyone's either driving home or already settled in. My first thought was, must be a wrong number. But then I heard a woman's voice shaking. She said my daughter's name. Said there was an accident. Head on. Not her fault. My stomach turned cold. I just listened, trying not to drop the phone. She told me the hospital name, something about 2 broken legs and a possible concussion. I couldn't make sense of it. I remember standing up, but not moving. The whole house felt like it was tilting. I barely said a word back to the woman. Maybe I said, "I'm on my way." Maybe not. My ears were ringing. My vision blurred. I just grabbed my jacket from the back of a chair and walked out the front door without turning off the lights. I drove like a robot. I didn't let my mind wander. If I did, I'd lose it. My knuckles were white on the wheel. The hospital was 20 minutes away. By the time I got there, the sun was sliding down behind the roofs, and the parking lot glowed in that strange fluorescent way. I walked in, asked for her by name. The nurse at the desk pointed me down a hallway. I followed the signs, passing closed doors, hearing beeping machines behind them. Everything was too bright, too clean. That hospital smell stuck in my throat. I asked a guy in scrubs where she was. He hesitated, then led me to a room. She was unconscious. Tubes, wires, bandages on both legs. Her face had some cuts, but it was her. I looked for a while, hoping she'd open her eyes. The nurse came in, explained the injuries: fractured femur in the right leg, a busted knee in the left, and some head trauma. Concussion. They'd run more scans. I asked if she was going to be okay. The nurse shrugged in a kind way. "We're doing what we can," she said. "She's stable." Stable. It felt like the only word I wanted to hear. My wife, ex-wife, I guess, though I never really got to that part in my head. She showed up a bit later. I wasn't sure who called her or if she just heard. Maybe from one of our daughter's friends. Or the hospital might have reached her, too. She rushed in, saw me, and stopped like she ran into a wall. I barely looked at her. She moved around to the other side of the bed, brushed the hair off our daughter's forehead. I watched the two of them for a moment. I felt numb. I didn't feel sad or angry or even afraid. Just numb. That's the best I can say. A doctor I'd never met came by, told us about the surgery they'd scheduled for the legs. Plates and screws. Long recovery, but she'd walk again. Might need months of therapy. He said the head injury was mild, relatively speaking. Concussion, no major hemorrhage, he said. We'll keep her under observation. I nodded, not saying much. She was 23, my daughter, old enough to be out on her own. Still, in that bed, she looked like a kid. I thought about the first time I saw her tiny face in the delivery room. That memory flashed so bright, I had to take a step back, grip the bed rail so I wouldn't sway. I don't remember leaving the room or talking to any more staff. At some point, I was just in the waiting area, staring at a vending machine. A soda word out. I didn't drink it. My wife, or the woman I'd been calling my wife for years, was sitting in a plastic chair. She asked if I was okay. I said nothing. She tried again, something like, "We'll figure this out." Still, I had no words. My mind was somewhere else. Eventually, she got up and went to the restroom or to talk to a nurse. I ended up pacing the halls until they told me I had to go home, that visiting hours were done. So I left. Drove back in the dark. Barely noticed the route. Walked in my front door. The lights were still on. The table lamp was shining on the empty plate where I'd been eating some leftover casserole before the phone rang. I sat down on the couch and stared at that plate for a long time. I guess that's how I survived that first night, just staring, not really sleeping. Next morning, I went back, got an update. She was conscious but groggy. They'd put a cast on one leg and were prepping the other for surgery in a few days. She tried to speak to me, but I just told her to save her strength. "You're gonna be okay," I said. She nodded, tried to smile. I felt my chest tighten up because she looked so fragile. I wanted to tell her everything would be normal again. But that'd be a lie. She was strapped with monitors, her face pale, tubes in her arms. Nothing about that was normal. Her mother came in again. We stood on either side of the bed. We didn't talk much. Sometimes we locked eyes over the sheets, and it felt like we'd both forgotten how to be in the same room. She was the one who eventually said something about insurance forms, about how we'd handle the hospital bills. I said I'd figure it out. I was used to that. My job never paid me a fortune, but we always had some coverage. We had joined insurance for the family, or so I thought. She seemed hesitant, like there was something else on her mind. I didn't bother asking. I just kept my eyes on our daughter. That day passed like molasses. Hours dragged. I left after dinner. The next day, around lunchtime, my phone rang. Private number. I picked up. The voice introduced itself as someone from the insurance company, verifying details for the hospital coverage. I said, "Sure, ask away." They wanted the father's signature, so they asked for my full legal name. I gave it. The voice on the line paused, then said they had a different name on file. Something else entirely. I said that must be a mistake. They apologized, asked if I was the biological father. I said, "Yes, of course." The voice went quiet, then said maybe we should confirm who was listed. They gave me a name I'd never heard before. I asked them to repeat it. They spelled it out. No bells rang. I told them there must be some error in the system. The voice said they just needed clarification, and they'd let me know if I had to sign additional paperwork, or if they needed to speak with the other father. I said, "There is no other father." They said, "We'll be in touch." And that was it. I sat there, phone in my hand, heart pounding. I tried to remember any time there could have been a confusion. Maybe a glitch from an old job, or some data entry mistake. Could be some random mix-up with patient records. But it gnawed at me. Because the voice sounded certain. And the name they gave me, I'd never heard it, but it didn't sound random. I drove to the hospital again, thinking I'd talk to the admin folks. But the reality of it was, they wouldn't share anything with me. Privacy laws, they said. They needed the official policyholder or the listed father to confirm. That was me, or so I believed. But apparently it wasn't. They gave me a phone number to call the main office, but nobody answered. I left a message. I left two, actually. Then I went to see my daughter. She was asleep. Her mother was in the room. She didn't even look at me. I felt that cold pinch in my gut again. I realized I didn't know what to say. So I left without a word. That night I tried to bury it. The idea that I might not be her father. That they had some record of someone else. But the next day, the insurance called again, telling me they really needed the official biological father to sign some forms for coverage. I said I was the father. They repeated that I wasn't listed as such. They asked me for some verification. I had no idea how to prove anything. They gave me an email address, said I could send any legal documentation, like a birth certificate or court order. My chest felt tight. I hung up. I remembered that birth certificate, the one from all those years back. My name was on it. At least I was pretty sure. But then I thought, did I ever look at it closely? We were young. She was born, we signed forms, we took her home. Life rolled on. Now some insurance rep is telling me there's a different name in the system, and they keep saying, biological father, like it's a done deal. I didn't speak to my wife about it. I didn't want to start a fight in the middle of this hospital crisis. Our daughter needed us calm, or at least not screaming at each other in the hallway. So I swallowed it. But the doubt kept me up all night. When I finally did drift off, I dreamed I was back in the delivery room, except I was behind a window, looking in. I watched my wife holding a baby. Except it wasn't me next to her. It was some faceless man in scrubs. I woke up drenched in sweat. My heart was pounding so loud, I thought it'd break my rib cage. I tried to tell myself it was all a big mistake. That morning, I told her mother we should talk about the insurance confusion. She looked away, said, "Later." I didn't press. My daughter was going into surgery that afternoon, and that was the priority. So I shut up and put my energy into being there for her. But there was no peace in my head. I kept looking at her face, searching for a sign that she was mine. Of course, she looked like herself. I couldn't imagine any different. And yet a seed of doubt lodged in my mind. I felt like a stranger to my own thoughts, just drifting in a sea of questions. I tried to focus on the fact that she was alive, and that was the most important thing. She'd heal. She'd walk again. Everything else could wait, right? But something in me refused to let it go. I decided I'd go to the house, find her birth certificate, prove the insurance had it wrong. Clear this up. I wanted to see it with my own eyes. I wanted that paper in my hands showing my name. I couldn't remember exactly where we kept it, so I dug around in the attic, rummaged through old boxes. I found some documents, receipts, tax returns. Eventually found a copy of her birth certificate. It had my last name for her, and the father field was typed with my name. So I thought, "They're done." But that phone call kept echoing in my head. "We have a different father listed." Why would they have that name unless someone told them? That question rattled me. Who would have told them? Or how else would they get that info? I found myself flipping through old boxes of photos, her baby pictures, birthday parties, all the normal stuff. She looked happy. She looked like my little girl. I felt my throat closing up. I got mad at myself for even doubting, for letting some insurance clerk get in my head. I put everything away, closed the attic, and tried to calm down. I told myself it was a glitch. Something easily fixed. But I was lying to myself, and deep down I knew it. Because a seed of suspicion like that doesn't just vanish. It grows. I sat at the kitchen table for a while, staring at my phone. I had the insurance guy's extension. I could call, demand an explanation, threaten legal action, all that. But I didn't. Something stopped me. Maybe it was fear. Maybe it was some buried instinct that told me life was about to shift in ways I didn't want to face. So I just sat there, silent, waiting for a reason to stand up again. Underscore. The day after the surgery, my daughter was awake and in pain, but at least she was talking. I tried to be by her side as much as possible. People said I was a good dad for doing that. But the confusion about the insurance was eating me alive. I'd get calls from them, each time more insistent. They needed the signature of the biological father for some technical reason regarding the policy coverage. They told me it was standard procedure if there was any question about paternity. I said, "Question? There is no question." They apologized again, said they were just following the file. They gave me that other name again, spelled it out carefully. I told them I'd never heard it in my life. They were polite, but unrelenting. They said it might have come from the mother's file. If the father is someone else, they need that confirmation. I felt sick. I confronted my wife, quietly, outside the room, near a vending machine. Asked her if she had any idea what the insurance was talking about. She shook her head, wouldn't meet my eyes. She said, "I don't know, maybe there's some old data from something else. I'll look into it." I said, "Look at me." She did, eventually. She looked scared, or cornered. I told her I needed the truth. She said, "Not here. Not now." I grabbed her hand, not violently but firm. "If there's something," I said, "tell me." Her eyes darted away. "We'll fix it," she whispered. "I promise." Then she pulled her hand away and walked off. I stood there for a long moment, hearing the hum of the soda machine, feeling like the ground was about to open under my feet. Later that evening, I sat in the hallway outside my daughter's room, feeling too restless to leave. I could hear her mother in there, talking softly. I stared at the dull gray floor tiles, tried to guess how many footsteps had worn them down over the years. I thought about all the people who come through these halls, worried sick about loved ones. And here I was, worried about something else entirely. I hated myself for letting it overshadow her recovery. But I couldn't help it. I wanted answers. One day bled into the next. The day after that, I decided to go home and shower, maybe catch a nap in my own bed. On the way, my phone rang again. Insurance. They said the confusion still wasn't resolved. They needed official proof of paternity, or they need the signature of the individual listed, some doctor's name. I froze. A doctor? I asked. The agent on the line said that was all the info they had. The name was associated with a local clinic. They spelled it again. I realized it sounded vaguely familiar. Then it hit me. Maybe I'd seen that name on a prescription pad or a hospital ID badge in town. I couldn't be sure. My head was spinning. I hung up on them. Couldn't handle it. I got to the house, tossed my keys on the counter. For the first time, I felt real panic. Because if it was a local doctor, that meant my wife must have known him. And if that was the name in the system, it wasn't some random error. It meant there was a reason. I felt my arms start shaking. For a moment, I wanted to punch a hole in the wall, toss a chair across the room. But I didn't. I had no energy for that. Just a sick feeling in my stomach, like the world was flipping upside down. I remembered I had her phone password. She told me once, in case of emergencies. I knew it by heart. I'd never used it. No reason to go snooping. But now, with all this swirling in my head, I reached for her phone. I checked the time. She'd be at the hospital with our daughter, or maybe at home soon. But I had a window. I found her phone in the living room, plugged in. I pressed the power button, typed the code, and waited. My heart thundered in my chest. I felt like I was crossing a line. But I needed to know. It was like being trapped in a cage, suffocating, with only one door labeled Truth. The phone opened. I scrolled the messages. There was a name I recognized, a colleague from her office, a friend from church. Then I saw the doctor's name, the same one the insurance had spelled out. I opened the thread. The first thing I saw was them discussing lab results. Some DNA test. I stared at the words. Your results confirm paternity, he wrote. Something about him wanting to step up, saying, It's your call, but she's my girl too. My vision blurred. I scrolled back. It went back a year. A whole year. They'd been discussing how to handle it, whether to tell our daughter. My wife wrote, Not yet, I'm afraid of what he'll do. She referred to me as him. She wrote to the doctor, We should tell her while there's time. And then more talk about maybe next month. And she deserves to know. My face went hot. My eyes burned. There were photos. A shot of our daughter from college graduation, with the caption, She looks so much like you. I felt my skin crawl. I read every last line until I felt sick to my stomach. A year they'd been discussing it. A year. They even talked about how if something happened medically, she might need to know who her real father was. The doctor said something about wanting to be in her life, but not sure if it was too late. My wife was uncertain. She kept talking about waiting for the right moment. That moment never came. And now here we were, in a hospital, and the insurance was the one that blew the secret wide open. I put the phone down, stared at the wall, hands shaking. It was like my whole marriage, my whole fatherhood, had been one big joke. But the worst part wasn't even that she cheated. It was that our daughter never knew. And that I'd been living in a lie without realizing it, for more than 2 decades. I heard the front door. She'd come home. I wasn't ready to talk. I couldn't even look at her. So I just walked out, got in my truck, drove. I made it 2 blocks before I had to pull over and catch my breath. My heart was racing. I hated her. I hated that doctor. But mostly, I just hated this giant vacuum in my life that used to be my sense of self. I tried to calm down, but the sob that came out of me sounded like an animal. I sat there, tears on my face, breathing in raspy gulps. I felt like I was drowning on dry land. Underscore 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 underscore. That day I didn't yell, or throw things, or threaten anyone. It's odd, looking back. You'd expect some big blow-up. But I just went quiet. Like all the anger condensed into a cold sphere in my gut. I showed up at the hospital, checked on my daughter. She was out of surgery, heavily medicated, drifting in and out. She saw me, smiled a little. "Hey, Dad," she mumbled. The word Dad cut through me. She didn't know what I knew. She didn't know anything had changed. The next day, I was at home alone. My wife was at the hospital. I saw her car keys on the counter. The thought hit me like a freight train. I wanted to do something that would show her, and him, that I wasn't just some clueless sap who'd roll over and take it. But I didn't want to lay hands on anybody. That's not me. And I didn't want to start a fight at the hospital. My daughter was already dealing with enough pain. But I felt like something big needed to be done. I needed to get this rotting feeling out of my chest in some real way. I took the keys, got in her car, drove to that local clinic where the doctor worked, where he might still be. I recognized the building from some small-town event years ago. It had this high chain-link fence around the back parking area. Don't ask me why. Maybe for deliveries or something. I turned into the lot, revved the engine, and slammed right into the fence. Hard. No caution. Metal screeched, headlights shattered, the front of the car crumpled. My chest jerked against the seat belt, but I was all right. My ears were ringing. I threw it in reverse, hit the fence again. The front fender tore off. I wasn't aiming for people. I wasn't aiming for him in particular. It was just the place he worked, that fence, the building behind it. I wanted to send a message. Then I stopped, put it in park. Smoke rose from the hood. Alarms blared. People started running out, yelling. I just opened the door and got out, the keys in my hand. I walked away from the wreckage and sat on a curb. A guard came running, radio squawking. I lit a cigarette, my hands still trembling, and took a drag. He shouted, "Sir, are you all right?" I said nothing. He looked at the damage, looked at me. Told me not to move, that the police were coming. I said, "Fine." Another guard came up. I just sat there. A couple of white coats emerged from the clinic. One might have been the doctor. I didn't look at them too closely. Eventually, the police arrived. I didn't run or shout or resist. They asked me if this was my car. I said, "No, it's hers." They asked whose? I didn't answer. I just said, "The car's not mine." They patted me down, found my wallet, asked for ID. I gave it. I could see them scanning the area, trying to figure out if I was drunk or high or crazy. I was none of those things. Just a man who'd had enough. They cuffed me, not rough, but firm, and put me in the back of a squad car. My wife showed up not long after, tears running down her face, screaming something. The cops were questioning her too. I didn't say a word to her. I remember she shouted, "Why are you doing this?" But I didn't look at her. I kept staring straight ahead. Next thing I knew, she was bawling, and they were telling her to step back. She tried to get to me, but they pulled her away. I recall her sobbing, "You're going to ruin everything." I couldn't feel anything for her at that point. My anger was spent. I felt cold, almost serene. Let them take me in. We got down to the station. They booked me for reckless driving, property damage, who knows what else. I just answered the basic questions. They put me in a cell for a bit. Then someone came in, said something about bail. I said I didn't care, I'd sign whatever. They let me out after a few hours. I walked out into the night. My wife wasn't there waiting. I had a friend pick me up, or maybe I just grabbed a taxi. Honestly, I forget. All I remember is going home and feeling like I'd finally done something. Not a good thing, not a noble thing. But something that told the world I wasn't asleep anymore. I sat in my dark living room, not turning on the lights, thinking about how my daughter was lying in that hospital bed with 2 broken legs, and how I was about to break everything else in this family. Underscore 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 underscore. I found her old diary a week later. She had a box of stuff in her closet from her high school days: notebooks, photos, random trinkets. I was going through them for no good reason. Maybe I wanted to feel close to her, remind myself of the years we had together when I believed I was her father. I opened a spiral notebook, realized it was her journal from years ago. She must have been around 14 or 15 at the time. I should have stopped reading. But I didn't. I needed to see what she felt, who she thought I was, what she might have known. And there it was, in crooked teenage handwriting. "I don't think Dad is really my dad." She wrote about how she tried to see if we looked alike but couldn't find a resemblance. How she felt uncomfortable asking me. How her mom brushed it off, saying, "Sometimes it's better not to know the answers to certain questions." She wrote that line in quotes. Then she wrote, "I want to love him, but I feel like there's a wall between us. Maybe I'm just crazy. He's kind. He's always there for me. But something feels off." As I read each sentence, my eyes burned. She wrote about how she'd overheard her mother talking quietly on the phone once, saying, "We should just keep quiet. She's still a child." My daughter wrote, "Who is she talking to? Does it have something to do with me?" Then more lines about how she worried I'd be hurt, or how she didn't want to ruin the family. She was a kid, confused, stuck in the middle of this secret. And I had no clue. I was just living my life, going to work, coming home, watching football with her on Sundays, never suspecting that she felt like an outsider in her own house. I got to a page where she wrote, "I wish I could talk to Dad about this. But I'm scared. Maybe he already knows. Or maybe he'd hate me for asking. I don't want to lose him." I swear my heart broke in half right there. I realized the betrayal went beyond what my wife had done to me. It was what we'd both, unknowingly in my case, done to our daughter. We'd kept her in some weird limbo, so she never felt fully safe in our home. Even though I thought everything was normal. She was afraid to ask me a question that would have changed her life. And I never gave her a reason to feel she could come to me with it. I felt sick. It wasn't the fact that she wasn't my biological daughter, though that stung like a knife. It was the fact that she believed I might reject her or punish her for wanting the truth. I closed the diary, set it on my lap, and sat there for what felt like hours. No tears now, just emptiness. I thought about all the times she'd called me Dad, all the birthdays, the vacations. All the times I must have missed the signs that she was carrying this weight. I pictured her mother, looking me in the eye for over 20 years, never saying a word. Then that doctor, whoever the hell he was, walking around out there, sending messages about how, "It's your girl too." I remembered her mother's words in the text. "Not yet, I'm afraid of what he'll do." Like I was some monster. But the real damage was done by them. Lying to a kid, letting her grow up with that quiet fear. That's what cut me the deepest. I realized I couldn't stay in this house anymore. The walls felt contaminated. Every corner had a memory, and now those memories felt twisted. I decided, right then, I was leaving. Maybe not forever, I told myself at first, just enough to clear my head. But inside I knew it was permanent. I was done with this marriage, done with the facade. I got some trash bags, threw in clothes, my toothbrush, some basics. I didn't bother packing properly. I didn't leave any note. I just walked out. Drove until the gas gauge hovered near empty. That night, I slept in a roadside motel, the kind that smells like old cigarettes and stale coffee. I didn't care. I tried to close my eyes, but I saw the words from her diary. I saw her broken legs in the hospital bed. That's my daughter, blood or not. I felt torn in half. I knew I couldn't help her by staying in that house with her mother. Something in me said it was better to just go. Let the dust settle. Let them figure out how to pick up the pieces. I was too angry, too betrayed to be any good to anyone. A few days passed. I kept my phone off. checked it once or twice for messages. Saw missed calls from my wife, from the hospital, probably from the police. I didn't answer. I didn't want to talk. I just drove, spending nights in cheap motels, living off vending machine snacks and black coffee. I felt like a ghost, drifting from one place to another. Then I had a thought. The house was still in my name. The mortgage had been in my name since the beginning. I didn't see a reason for her to keep it. Let her and that doctor find somewhere else, if that's what they wanted. So I arranged for a quiet sale. Talked to a realtor friend, told him to keep it hush-hush. He said, "Your wife will have to sign off." I told him, "It's complicated." Eventually, we worked around it. The details are messy. But I got it done. Within a couple of months, the property was out of my hands. The money came through, and I wired it into a fund for adoptive fathers, some national organization that supports men who raise kids not biologically theirs. Didn't put my name on the donation. Just sent it off. Felt like the only thing that made sense. Meanwhile, my wife, or ex, whatever, she had no clue, I guess. Maybe she found out afterward. Maybe she tried to contest it, but I didn't stick around to see. I changed my phone number. Took the simplest route to cutting ties. Maybe it was cowardly, but I needed to protect myself. I was unraveling, and I had to save what was left of my sanity. As for that doctor, I heard through the grapevine, one of the few mutual acquaintances we had, that he quit the clinic. Word got around about the DNA tests, or the scandal, or maybe the place didn't want the drama. Who knows? I didn't chase him down. If he wanted to take responsibility now, that was his business. I only wrote to my daughter once. Hand-wrote a letter on plain paper. Told her I never doubted my love for her. That I was always proud to be called her dad, even if it was all built on a lie I didn't know about. Told her I didn't hold a grudge against her, none of this was her doing. I said I'd understand if she never wanted to see me again. But if she ever needed me, I'd come. I gave her a P.O. box address, said I'd check it from time to time. No pressure. No guilt. I sealed it up, sent it off. Haven't heard back yet. It's been a while. Sometimes I wonder if she ever got it. Underscore 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 underscore. Now I'm living in a trailer near a canyon in the southwest. It's hot, dusty, but the sunsets are something else. Every evening, the sky goes blood orange, then fades to purple. Reminds me of how small we are in the grand scheme of things. I do some odd jobs here and there, patching roofs, fixing fences, just enough to pay for groceries and gas. I try not to talk much to people. They ask too many questions. I'm not ashamed, exactly. I'm just tired of explaining. I keep thinking about that day in the hospital when the insurance folks called. If they'd never called, would I still be living in that house, believing the same story? Maybe. Makes me realize how fragile everything is. We walk around thinking we know who we are, who our family is. Then one phone call, and it all comes undone. I drink once in a while. Some nights I'll have a bottle of something strong, stare at the canyon's edge under the moonlight. I don't go crazy with it. I'm not trying to drown myself. But it helps me sleep sometimes. I don't pretend to be a saint. I lost my temper in a spectacular fashion when I drove that car into the fence. Some people might say that was borderline criminal. Maybe it was. But in that moment, it was all I could do to keep from hurting someone else or going totally numb. I haven't seen my wife again. Don't plan to. If she's in the same town, good for her. If she moved, I don't care. That life feels like it belonged to somebody else. I do wonder about my daughter, though. If she's walking yet without crutches. If she's gotten back to her life. If she wants to see me. I think about that letter I sent, imagine her reading it, maybe crying or maybe just folding it away. I don't know. We never had a big confrontation. Not directly. I guess that's the part one regret. We never sat down and said the words out loud. You're not my biological father. I know. I'm sorry. We just drifted apart under the weight of something we never asked for. Part of me wants to be in her life again, but only if that's what she wants. I'm not here to force my way back in. I did my best as her dad. I can't undo the past. It happened. The lies, the secret. None of it was her fault. Maybe she'll reach out one day, ask for a conversation. I'll be here, waiting, near this canyon with the desert wind in my face, thinking about how we all end up broken in one way or another. I can't say I'm happy. But I'm not exactly miserable, either. I'm sort of in limbo. Some days I imagine a future where I build a little cabin, maybe plant a small garden. Invite my daughter down for a visit. Or maybe not. Maybe I'll just keep drifting aimless, letting the days blur together. I'm not a hero. I'm no saint. Just a man who got blindsided by a truth that was too big to ignore. And I did what I could. Which, in the end, was to walk away from everything I thought was mine. Occasionally, I watch the mail. There's a tiny post office in the nearest town. I'll check my P.O. box for a letter, a note. Nothing so far. If it never comes, I'll live. If it does, I'll be ready to have that conversation. Until then, I keep to myself, fix old fences for the ranchers around here, keep my trailer in decent shape. Life moves on. Doesn't matter if you're in a 2-story suburban house or a dusty trailer by a canyon. The days don't stop for you just because your world got turned upside down. Most mornings, I wake up early, step outside, watch the sun crawl up over the rocks. I think about that day when the phone rang and changed my life forever. Funny how the thing that started it all wasn't even the crash, really. It was the insurance call that tore open the secret. If it weren't for that, I might still be living in ignorance. Sometimes I wish I could go back. But then I remember the pain in my daughter's diary, how she suspected for years. She needed the truth, even if it came too late. I can't say I've found peace. But I'm no longer stuck in that house, pretending. Maybe that's the closest thing to peace I can get right now. I figure we all have to live with the choices we make, and the choices others make for us. Mine led me here, to a quiet life on the edge of nowhere. I still have hope, though, that she'll come around. That she'll see I cared for her in every way that mattered. Biology be damned. She was always my girl and my heart. That's what I wrote in the letter, anyway. The rest is up to her. If she never writes back, I'll keep breathing. Keep walking the desert. Keep watching the sky turn pink at dusk. Because that's all there is, in the end. Just me, and the memories I carry, and the knowledge that the truth can set you free, but first it breaks you wide open. And that's about it. I don't know what else to say.